Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Olga is here. For those of you who haven't yet, please subscribe to my channel. Please hit the bell as well to get the latest notifications about the videos I post out there for you guys. And in today's video I am going to be reviewing the Huda Beauty Desert Dusk palette. That's what she looks like. So as you might have guessed, I have already played with this palette. This is the unicarton that it came in. This is a pretty simple looking unicarton, considering that once you pull it out of the box, you get something beautiful like this. This is what she looks like. And then we have this beautiful little see-through kind of business going on. So let me go ahead and give you all of the specs and all of the 411 on this palette, and then we're going to do the swatches. And once we do the swatches, then I'm going to show you what I do with this palette on my eyes. I have already had a chance to play with this palette and wore it for the Halloween party, because I cannot really give a palette an honest and unbiased review unless I wore it on my eyelids for the entirety of a day or at least an evening, because I need to know for myself if there is going to be any creasing going on, how the shadows perform. There are different textures in this palette. I'm going to cover all of that right now. So this palette is talc free. It's good for 12 months. That's what you get from the little sign right there. The shelf life is 12 months. The palette retails for $65. These are highly pigmented eyeshadows that are easy to blend. That's the information I read on the Sephora's website in the description of the palette. The palette contains 18 shadows. It comes in 4 different textures. You get 6 pressed pearls, 3 dual chrome toppers, you get 8 beautiful easy to blend mattes, and you get 1 glitter. The creator of the palette is Huda. The brand is called Huda Beauty. Her name is Huda Katan. This is their second palette. The first palette was limited edition. I do not own that palette, but I am considering getting it since they are stocking it again on the Sephora's website. The size you're getting is 0.89 ounces or 25.2 grams of product. Let's go ahead and do the swatches right now. As usual, I prime my arm with the Urban Decay Primer Potion before I do the swatches. I also clean my brush between the swatches in the color switch. As usual, I do the finger swatch and then I follow it up with a brush swatch to show you the difference. In this particular swatch job, you see me changing the brushes because I was not having luck with my typical brush that I use. That's why you do see a different brush that I'm using. When I was trying to swatch the metallics or dual chromes, they were giving me a hard time with the brush swatches. I was having more luck doing them with finger swatches. They seem to have better translation onto the skin with the finger. Also, some of the colors literally do not show up on my skin tone. Just wanted you to take a note of that as well. necessarily like how this palette swatches on my arm, but because we do not wear eyeshadows on our arms, we wear them on our eyes, I'm not going to base my decision and verdict on this palette based on swatches alone. However, when I swatched the Desert Sand and Musk, this Desert Sand is a transition color, so I wouldn't worry too much about how it looks on a swatch on my arm. These types of lighter colors never pretty much show up on my arm. I might be as well having nothing going on there. But like I said, this is a transition color. This is like your canvas anyway. The Celestial and Nephrodite, when I try swatching them on my arm, they swatch beautifully with the finger. And then when I try to go in with a brush, basically anytime we're talking metallics, they apply the best with the finger. And for some reason, when you try to go in with a brush, it is such a disappointment. My goodness. Now, there is also something else you need to know. When we are swatching, like at least when I swatch, I always swatch in a typical fashion of like 1, 2, 3, 4 across. And of course, I noticed that when I swatch with a brush, it just sort of looks like a little bit of a glitter and not much. But when we pack them on the eyes, we use like a packing motion and we put the color onto the belly of the brush. They apply better, especially if you go in and use something like a glitter glue to apply them. You're not going to have much trouble. So like I would tell you, I have already worn these colors for the Halloween party. For instance, I went ahead and wore Twilight. It swatches horribly with a brush. It just does. But on the eyes, it packs in the punch. I mean, it's a beautiful color. Now, with all of these mattes, when I go in with a finger, the mattes kind of give me a dry kind of feeling. The dual chromes and the pressed pearls, they actually feel quite wet. And it kind of feels like you're almost going to like make an indentation in them. So do not go with a heavy hand, especially if you're going in with a finger. But the mattes kind of feel a little bit dry to my taste, but they blend beautifully. So right now I am going to actually stop talking because I know this is quite a bit. And I am going to start playing with the colors and start applying them on my eyes. Desert Sand, pack her onto my eyelids. I am going to list in the description bar down below what kind of brushes I use. I'm going to go in with the color Eden and I'm going to start tucking it into the crease, kind of like a tick-tock motion. I'm going to go in with the color Saffron and deepen that crease. Now I'm going to go in with the color Amethyst and I'm going to tuck it into my lower eyelid. And now I'm trying to drag it beyond into my upper crease a little bit, just to kind of connect this logically. I'm actually going to apply that same color Amethyst into my upper lid. What I can tell you right now about this Amethyst purple color, it's if you just kind of pack it on and not overblend it, I think it will stay true to the color. But once you start blending it, I'm noticing a little bit of the skipping of the pigment. What I'm going to go in and do right now is I want to go back to the color Saffron, and I want to re-intensify the crease. I'm also going to go in and apply some of this Too Faced glitter glue because I am going to go into their glitter, pressed pearls, whatnot, and I want to make sure that the glitter stays put. So I am going to go in right now with the color Twilight. I'm going to put that color onto the belly of the brush, and I'm just going to use packing motion to pack it onto my entire lid. I'm going to go in and grab my setting spray. I'm going to set the eyes. I'm going to go into the color Retrograde, and I'm going to tuck it into the area of the tear ducts. I'm going to go in with this Urban Decay mascara Perversion. I'm going to put that on my eyelashes. Go in with one of these colors for my blush because I like to use the eyeshadow palettes not just as eyeshadows, but I like to incorporate some eyeshadows as highlighters and as blushers. I'm going to go into Angelic and kind of use it, see what happens when I use it as a blusher. Actually quite pretty. I mean, I really like that. This is kind of like a highlighter slash blusher for me, and I really like it. I mean, not to mention that I could use more colors that way and really determine if I like this or not. So now that we have dissected the butterfly until there is no butterfly to dissect, and I can pretty much tell you my words and verdict, let's go ahead and open the can of worms. I'm going to talk about the disadvantages first, that way I can get it out of the way, and then I'm going to talk about the good stuff. So, this particular palette, for me, it's very beautiful, but when I try to swatch it on my arm, it swatches crappily. If I were to just make a decision based on swatches, then we would be done with the video. We wouldn't even try this, we wouldn't get any further with it. So of course, swatches are just one of the components. The metallics swatch beautifully with the finger. They do not perform under the swatch circumstances with the brush. Even though I always swatch in the typical fashion of priming my arm with an Urban Decay primer potion, I always try to use the same brush, although with this palette I struggled. I tried changing brushes. I thought that if I picked up a natural fiber brush, it would be better. What if I would pick up synthetic? What if I pick up this and that? So I just realized that no matter what brushes I was going to swatch it with, it's not going to perform. Luckily, we do not wear eyeshadows on our arms. So let's go ahead and, of course, talk about the good stuff now. They perform beautifully. On the eyes, when you try to blend the colors, they perform beautifully. The only color that doesn't really like to perform beautifully under the blending circumstances is the color amethyst, because once you start blending it out, it's like purples are hard to make anyway. They're the type of a pigment that is very hard to replicate in terms of what you see in the pen and what's going to be on your eye is going to be two different things. A lot of times, lots of makeup brands struggle with this. This particular purple doesn't really seem to have that issue if you are packing the color on. So when I tucked in the color into my lower lash line, it seems to perform real well with a small Wayne Goss brush, with a small, very like precision brush. It also seems to be doing well with natural fiber brushes. I did not use it with synthetic, so I cannot speak about that because I was using Wayne Goss brushes to apply it. I of course primed my eyelids before working with this MAC paint pot in ochre, and that really does help. I would not even want to imagine what it would look like if I didn't prime my eyelids. I always do. So the rest of the colors seem to be performing pretty well. There isn't really much significant fallout onto the cheeks when you try to do your eyes, although I do recommend when there is something like a fallout, do your eyes first and then do your foundation and set your face afterwards. I typically don't do that. I always do my foundation and setting first, and then I do my eyelids, but it is possible to do it the other way. Also, if you have done your foundation first, you can put some loose powder when you are doing your eyelids and then kind of swipe it off once you're done. In the pan, there isn't any kind of fallout either. It seems like these eyeshadows are packed in pretty nicely. You seem to be getting a really good amount of product here. Like I said, I do not have her other palette, the one that came out before, because I never got it, so I cannot compare to that. Although I do know from the description on the Sephora's website that this is a different formula. So when they talk about the details about this palette, it says that this has 3 new formulas, especially the duochromes. It seemed like Huda really listened to the reviewers and YouTube influencers when she created this palette. It seems like the first palette had a bit flimsier packaging. It had a clear top. There wasn't a full-size mirror in it. The packaging was what I heard people were complaining about. The shadows were hard to work with. It seemed like you needed to go in with a finger. Of course, you want to be able to pick up the product with a brush and be sure that the product translates true to its color in the pen onto your lid. So with all of that in mind, the fact that Huda listened to all of that, all of those constructive criticisms, and actually came out with a beautiful palette, beautiful design work, seems like the shadows actually are performing very well. Like I said, I wore this kind of look during the Halloween and nothing fell out. This look held up, nothing creased, and it's beautiful. I would say that I absolutely, unequivocally approve the product. And I will be looking forward to the next palette whenever that comes around. It seems like the makeup industry is really pushing a lot of stuff at us, so I'm really excited to see what Huda has in store for us in a little bit. So with all of that said, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. Please leave me your questions, comments in the section down below. Please let me know if there's any particular product, any particular eyeshadows that you want me to review, and I will gladly go buy it and do it for you guys. And I'll see you all in my next video. I love you. Bye.